You hear the take it away.
Alrighty. Well, Anine all, really honored to be asked to do this. Um, I'll start introducing myself. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up. So I'm gonna go off camera, because I have a whole slide presentation all set up. I was given some of the questions that folks registered with in advance, so I added those all to my slides also, and then I will keep some time open at the end to answer other questions that you all might have after you hear me go on and on. And I'm just kidding. So I'm gonna screen share and go off video here. Are we good on that, Cayman?
We are solid. It looks
All
beautiful.
right.
I'm excited to learn.
Sweet. Well, I even titled my presentation Waban Jagade. Um, it's seen by someone or they see it. I thought that was a good title for a social media knowledge share. Again, really honored to be asked by AICHO to do this. Um, and also, yeah, kind of feeling a little bit of the, am I the person to do this and all that stuff when I was asked. Yeah, I am. So had to get over that quickly, but I just wanted to share that it happens to everybody. And I think we all try to, don't really see ourselves in these spaces or with the knowledge to be able to step up and share with others. And um, yeah, I'm here to do that with you all. So the next slide, uh, this is where I saved my intro. So Amikagawa Indigenous Cause, Adrienne Benjamin Indigu, Awazasi and Dude, Mississauga Gining and Dunjaba, Chamanising and Da, Nij Nindanasug and Yawag, Bagwajakwe now Jawanigijagukwe. So uh short form of that. I am from Mille Lacs and I'm from the smallest community in Mille Lacs called Chiminising, or also known as Isle. I have two daughters, Isabella and Talia. And those are just some quick links there. If you don't follow me or know my social medias, or my website is actually kind of under construction right now, which I was going to share openly that as part of this recent fellowship that I won through the California Alliance for Traditional Arts, part of it was actually granting me, I think it's 6 to 8 hours with this national PR firm, and they specialize in working with artists and creatives. So it was really, I've learned a lot, and I plan on sharing what I learned in that. It like really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And at the end of that session, I was given like basically a 1 to 5 year plan on how to kind of take my social media to the next level and kind of see what you're doing well and what you're not doing well when it comes to looking at yourself kind of as an influencer and as a business. Um, and I think I'm going to go to the next slide. So I'll start here. And this is my favorite slide. I think one thing as an artist specifically, I don't think that there's a line that exists where you're all of these different things. Like we all wear a lot of different hats, right? We're an artist where we have our space in community with, ceremony with so many different things. And one thing that I stay true to, I feel in my social media journey or my journey as an artist is that I try to stay 100% authentic. If I post something, it's from my heart. I try to be myself. And number three is a huge one, I think, that a lot of us think about, but maybe don't talk about a whole lot, is worrying what other people might think about what you say. And I don't know that there's a way that you really can get around that other than just doing it. And the other thing that I think with authenticity is that the right people will find you, and that becomes then your audience. If you are doing something that's more, if you're like a car shop owner, obviously you're going to have to think about your social media in a different faction, right? You're going to use a lot of hashtags, all those different things. But for me, um, in one of my first times that I met with someone who was talking about social media with me, I think it's a common fact to and I think this is one of my questions later. Is it easier to post from social media as a specific business or as yourself? And for me, I do so many different things, and I think that they all entwine. So the advice that I was given, and this isn't for everybody, is to just kind of wrap it all up into one thing. I post jingle dresses from time to time. I talk about my advocacy work with Minnetonka Moccasins. I talk about simple things that happen to me in a day-to-day situation that inspire me. I tend to speak from the heart, and I love this little slide right here about authenticity will take you places where people pleasing can't. And I think that it's so true. When I think about a lot of the experiences that I've had, the fellowships that I've been a part of, um, most of the most incredible experiences have come from me not knowing who people are and just not being afraid of what other people are going to think. My third little point there, not being afraid to argue your view, stand for your values, I think really gets you very far in all of this, whether it be your artistic journey, your influencer, your business, and again, I'm coming at this in a very different way than like if I'm definitely not an ad agency, and I'm not gonna tell you exactly what you need to do because I think every case is different, but I'm here to tell you and kind of share with you what my story has looked like with social media and my artistry and all that other stuff. So just wanted to make that very clear. My next slide. These are just some main points at the beginning here that I thought were important that I wanted to share with you all. Um, Value yourself. So my just to give the closed caption here, my photo is I'm an artist, and when you buy from me, you're buying hundreds of hours of failures and experiments. You are buying a piece of my heart and soul and a moment of my life. And I think that specifically in, as Native artists, a lot of people judge, a lot of people, have a lot to say about where you learn from, what you have going on, if you even know how to do it right. Do you know the story behind this? Do you know that or the other thing? And I think that as you go, that part of your storytelling can be important. Share about your mentor, share about where you learned from, share how old you were when you started doing your work. I think all of those things are important. And as I've grown as an artist, my prices have gone up, and I've had people be like, "Oh, you can't afford Adrienne," and blah blah blah, but I'm always willing to work with if it's an organization, but I'm also not willing to undervalue myself, and knowing the time and effort and thousands of hours away from my kids, and the hours that I put in with mentors and other things like that is important, and I am valuable, and as I get better, that also my craft gets better. And I think that we have to think about that, especially with inflation. It's a real thing. So don't undervalue yourself. Your time is valuable. Your years of experience do count towards mastery. Um, you can always break your costs down. That's something that was new to me. Not really new, but I just never wanted to do it because it was just, I am definitely full fledged proud ADHD person and things like that just make me crazy. And but when I started going through this business academy, it was one of the first things that I started to think about is like, okay, well, what's your actual cost breakdown? Are you charging enough? How much are you charging for your time? Even down to what does it cost you to travel to get your goods, or what is the shipping rate of you sending something out? It's down to that. Then exactly if you're making, if your business is even making money or worth it on the time spent. So I just gave a couple examples there: cost of materials, travel, your time, your advertising. That's another thing that um, my mom and I, she is a part of my business, so is my daughter, and we share a lot of different things. And so one time we were talking about, well, she was bargaining her price with me, and I was like, okay, well, that's fair at a percentage of what you're making. I said, but are you buying the total materials and are you, you know, putting up the costs when we go somewhere? Are you spending time on these photos that I'm putting out there on social media and that I've spent time getting my followers up to, so it's like having, even if it's your mom or whoever it is, your employees, I think that when you can explain those kinds of things and have it really broken down, it saves a lot of heartache in the end or hard feelings or anything like that when it does make sense when you have, you know, your lists and things in order like that to be able to explain to people like this is what it costs. Otherwise people are just like, oh, you're just charging so much, and it's like, actually no. So, and I apologize, I've been sick for like this whole weekend, and so if you hear me sniffling and all that, I'm my bad, but it is what it is. I'm here. My next slide. On that note, people know your worth and they just hope that you don't. I love this. I think it's so true. One thing that I did learn, I went to art and culture strategy at the University of Pennsylvania program specific to that. And one of the first things that you learn in negotiation is to never name your price first, to let someone else throw out a number. And this, I will tell you, is so damn true. People do know your worth. And most of the time, if you let that happen and you ask them to throw out a number, I'm gonna say it's probably 5 out of 10 times gonna be higher than what you thought you were going to ask for. So that is one key of negotiation, and it's hard because a lot of people be like, let me know your price. You let me know where that, it's a hard drive bargain to let them throw that number first, because a lot of times I've been like, oh wow, like what actually someone has offered me versus what I was originally even going to ask for. And especially as you grow as an artist, as you grow as a business, all of those things, like we keep thinking about it, right, in this kind of a present tense, or we just, we want to be fair to people, we want to do this. But as you grow and as your mastery grows and all that stuff, I really do believe that you have to, grow. Your price has to come with that too. It's like people have no problem bringing in, you know academics and all these other people for big bucks, and you're worth just as much. So just want to say that. This is just for folks that I kind of thought about it on a more business scale. Who is your target audience? Uh, Obviously, if you're in this to make money, then you know who that target audience is. So it's kind of what person would frequent your business. But also, I think a key strategy to doing well with your business is that you have to make your business more about just business. It has to be about you. People always want to know the why. People want to know why, what got you into it. What is your heart behind your product, whatever that is. If it's skirts, if it's beadwork, who did you learn from? What are the stories that you have that you can share with other people that really will, engage them? And um, my last little point there, I think you would be surprised how people end up connecting with your content when it's really honest and heartfelt. And kind of going back to my earlier slide, I just want to say there's so many times, I was just sharing this with a friend today, that I'll type something up about just something that happened that I was like, I think people need to hear this, or I think this is so cute, I want to share. And then I'm like, like throughout my life, I'm a very emotional person. I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm a very intense person, and I care about a lot of things. And a lot of times I've always been told that I was too much, or I'm too emotional, or this or that or the other thing. And it's like when I go to post something, I'm so serious. That is like the voices from high school or wherever play in my head. People are gonna think you're just ridiculous. People are gonna think you're dumb, or they're gonna think it's just emotional, or you're trying to do whatever. And like I just have gotten really good at being like, you know what, this is like as me as a post can get, and I'm gonna post it. Like I have an example, if you're friends with me or know me on Facebook. I just recently posted about a simple interaction with somebody that I had in an airport. This girl, I she commented on my tattoos, and she was like, "Are those Ojibwe florals?" And it was like so cool, the fact that she just like let her, like, the customer service voice was gone. She connected with me, and I posted about that, and I was like, it's so dumb, but it was something I just felt like wanted to be out there. Like, and it was one of my most engaged posts in a long time. And I was like, okay, so again, authenticity. And I just put this here because I think, the lateral violence stuff is very real and it's out there. There are people that will never support you because it's you, and there are people that will always support you because it's you. And you just have to know who they are, right? And you have to like be okay with that, and you have to find those people who are going to love you and support you, and you know the rest is just up to you, and who engages with your audience beyond that, right? Going to my next slide. Your connections matter. Man, if there's one thing that I could say more enough, like shout from the rooftops of business, of life, of artistry, anything. It's this. Whether in person or online, your connections matter and your connections last even when you're not in the room. The way you treat people and how you show up in the world is always on display. And I should have put a fourth thing on here. People are always going to remember how you treat them, whether it's in person. One thing that I really strive to do, just on an online note, was when people comment, I make it a point, even if it's hearts, stars, if they ask a question, if they say something really, like meaningful, I always make it a point to respond. I think that people, took a moment to comment and say something to me, and I don't think that I'm above that to give that back to somebody. And I think that that's really good social media engagement in general. So, but I put this picture in specific up here with these jackets that I recently designed and kind of put out into the world, of just the fact of connections and all these people. One's from Canada, one's from LCO, my two cousins who are champion jingle dancers, and Babis Ganeyashi Koi, Wendy Merrill, who's a district rep. And I just think about like the connections and how your social circle can grow, right? So when these jackets are out in the world, people in Canada are seeing them, people in LCO are seeing them. When Kim and Darcy travel and dance at powwows, people are seeing them. So your connections always travel farther than you do, And I think that that's something that I never thought about really before until I started doing a lot of fellowships, making a lot of friends, and just having great conversations with people. I think that's very hard. I'm like as severe of an introvert and shy person. If you knew me now, you wouldn't believe that. But like 10 years ago, man, I was like the wallflower girl, just never talked to anybody. I never had the confidence. I would like the yes person, just, and as I've grown, I've realized how important networking is. And again, I just want to, like, I can't state that enough. When you're out at an event or when you're anywhere, just even if it's three people that you make it a point to just talk to, do it. Because you just never know who's in the room. You never know who's watching. You never know what that conversation or meeting that person, what kind of effect it can have. You can have a new best friend. You could meet somebody that's on some grant panel someday that's reading your grant and remembers you from that time. And I just really think that it's just beyond anything else that you can do. It's so important. One second, my next slide here. Um, Influencers. I put this on here because this picture in specific, obviously, that's Peggy Flanagan. A lot of people know Delina White and Lavender. Um, Everyone on social media is an influencer. I believe this um, fully. Your friends care about what you post. Your friends will try restaurants you try. Your friends will listen to the things that you say. If somebody or something is bad, you're gonna have that like in your mouth as a taste, right? Like you are influenced every single day, every time you open your scroll, every time you see anything, by whether it's fashion, whether it's somebody's makeup. what you see becomes something that influences your life. And I think that this is something that, not everybody thinks deeply about every day, but it's a definite truth. People influence people. When you're thinking about influence and wanting to get your product out there or business or yourself, if it, I don't know what kind of businesses folks are doing, but ask your friends for help, like, uh, me asking Peggy to model for me for this recent show that I did, her photo on Instagram, like, I don't even know, it was like 450% more views and likes than I get alone. So by doing that, and every time you ask one of your friends, that triples, right? Like, again, what I talked about in my last slide, your influence is one thing, your friends have a ripple effect on each other that'll bring you more audience in the end, and it just is a continuous cycle. Another thing that I've done and I've realized is a good move is to tag people, and not only tag people but tag the brands that you use. If you're sewing, or if even the jingles that I use, I tag the company that I use their jingles. I mean, to me, yeah, people can get paid for that stuff, but also I just feel like I do use a lot of indigenous brands, and even my small bit still matters to those brands. And if they repost you, whatever it is, it does make a difference for you. So again, and then my last part, your connections will connect to other connections, and it just goes on and on. Just wanted to share this. Someone admires you from afar and is inspired by you. This, every time you post, when you're real, when you're sharing your art, when you're sharing your business, someone is looking at that as an example. Could be something they want to be, could be something they want to try, could be something they want to wear. This is very true. I wanted to share this back to the importance of connection and networking. Just this year, I received this random email that I had been nominated in a group of 50 people from across the country, and not just indigenous artists, but artists from all walks of life, for this California Alliance for Traditional Arts Taproot Fellowship. And I received it in my email, and I was like, this is silly, but I was blown away. And when I get stuff like that, I'm always like, is this real? Um, but I had received it, and it's so, part of this was that somebody had seen me in such a way that they thought that I was in the 50 most deserving artists from across the country that deserved a shot at this Taproot Fellowship. The Taproot Fellowship is for artists that are doing cultural or, um, I guess, folk, traditional, kind of non-mainstream work in their communities, and maybe there aren't like main fashion designer, they're not doing work that's getting them noticed in big like museums or just other things like that, but they're making a difference in their communities through their art. um and this was like a blind nomination. I still have no idea who in the country nominated me for this. But I was nominated along with 50 other people. From those 50, they chose 25, and those 25 people were awarded $50,000 unrestricted, um, to just continue to be an artist, as like a kind of a boost to continuing what you're doing. Uh, and then another 10,000 that would to go towards a community project, which I'm working on and will be kind of released here sometime in 2025. But I just like was blown away. So from the 50, I actually had to apply and write about what I do. And of course, I talked about my jingle dressmaking and what it means to me coming from Mille Lacs, and how, much it moved me. But again, somebody out there that I met, whether at a fellowship or from somewhere, thought enough of me and our connection and our conversation or whatever it was, or sees me on social media enough to put me up for something like this, a national, like fellowship. So again, I always want to say that those connections are so meaningful and matter. And this is a quote that they posted on their website, but to me, it was really, it's super meaningful to be considered for something like this Taproot Fellowship means that I'm continuing the work that those elders entrusted me to do and truly believing in myself the way they believed in me. And I think that that was like super meaningful. If I said this one time, if I'm not believing in myself, I'm not believing in them and what they instilled in me. And we can't be rolling around like that. So, um, just important. My next thing, this is my old badass pick here. No, just kidding. Is apply, apply, apply. And I've gotten so many no's. I've cried a little bit about probably all of them. But you know what? Like this list, and I've probably forgotten some things along over the years. Um, the TED Ignite Fellowship was a blind nomination again. Uh, again, as was the California Alliance. The Metropolitan Regional Arts Council, that is a Minneapolis available fellowship, and that one is like literally a luck of the draw lottery. You apply for it, you're just as much possible to get it as anybody. I received the Entrepreneur of the Year award from my tribe from Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. Uh, this 2021 Waters Building Future Building Award was another blind nomination that I did find out who nominated me for that, and it was somebody. And you know what's crazy? For the two that I know were blind nominations, and that I found out it was no one from my community. It was somebody that I had met like in brief passing in a great conversation somewhere in one of my fellowships. And that to me, again, proves the importance of those connections and with, you know, just being with people and being yourself. Um, if anyone is interested, I'm always happy to try to point you towards different things. Um, you know, like I said, I've received a lot of no's, but I apply to a lot of things, and you're not going to get every single thing. Sometimes, you know, I've seen, actually, I can't think of the actress's name, but it's Shuri from the Black Panther films, and she said that she started to look at her no's as a redirection, that those weren't for her, and it wasn't for her the time for her to be able to have those things or do those things or have that moment, whatever that award or these different experiences are. And that's how I look at it too. And it usually ends up being pretty amazing. You know, when I was upset, I applied for um this grant this in 2024, and I was like, oh my gosh. And my friend never lets me live this down to this day. It was a 35,000 unrestricted, and I was like, oh man, like that would have helped me, you know, get through the year, like because I, you know, take care of my daughter now and just kind of bounce off of this stuff. And it was literally, I went on a trip, and like 4 days later, that uh that I won the California for 50,000. And my friend was like, "You're crying around about 35,000 and you won 50." And I was like, "Okay, yep, let's just move on from that." But it's real. I mean, the no's kind of hurt, and they shake you, and they make you question yourself, and that's just all natural, you know, feelings, and you just kind of gotta get past that and, you know, realize that somebody else is going to see you. Somebody else is going to, you know, understand your art or your business and all this other things. And I will say, whether or not you are an artist, like applying for any of these things, there's stuff like this for all kinds of things across the country, you know, whether it's like going to different conferences or just whatever, like meet people. You never know, you might, you know, have an idea, do collaborations with people. It's just always good to meet people. And again, this is coming from an introvert who absolutely needs like quiet after I'm out and about in crowds. But you know, it's I've learned that it's really important, and you kind of just become good at it after a while. You know, you just talk from the heart and roll with it. I'm trying to stay on time here so we have time. Um, so I'm to my question section, and these are things that were asked prior to the being here with you all. What piece of advice would you give your younger self? There it is. Quit listening to people who don't want you to win. And I think that it takes some time, some self assessment, some self love. You know, my friend group is very small, and I've got rid of people over the years who always had that hint of jealousy, who always, you know, when something good was happening, well, like what about this? Or you can hear those tones, And as sad as it is, like maybe those people just aren't where they need to be on their healing journey or whatever that is for them. Like you can't let other people treat you like that. Like you need your strongest like folks around you, especially when you're moving into like a business or some big leap for your personal self. You want people who are going to give you the best advice, who really truly love you, who care about your well-being, and who aren't just, if like I was going to send people out and something that looked crazy, like I want my friend to be like, girl, you better not, or some, like I don't want that friend that's like, yep, whatever, it's cool, like just, don't, just do whatever you think. And I think that that's so important. And I you realize it, who that is and who supports your stuff. I make a point to really try to support a lot of artists if they're doing raffles, or my god, my earring collection is insane. But you know I think understanding that there are going to be people that are going to be against you, but gravitate and find the people who are for you, whether that's elders, that's mentors, that's friends. um, there are people out there who are going to give you the best advice, and there are going to be plenty that are going to be the opposite of that. But I think I spent so much time, like I said, I still battle the voices before I post something, before I post a picture. Oh my god, I look like this, or my is that stupid, somebody's gonna like think I'm sensitive and whatever, like all of that stuff. That's that post right there. Stop listening to people who don't want you to win, because the right people are going to love you, are going to support everything you say on social media to a T, obviously. Like yeah, Mishko Mikanak, I can already hear you saying something to that one. But anyway, um yeah, like don't let those negative voices get away with your heart and with your wins and all that stuff like that. That would be my advice to my younger self. Uh, Here's that question we talked about. Is it better to use a personal or business account? And I think that this is personal to you. I think for me, with my advocacy work, with my artistry, with all the different things that I do as a person, I had this discussion with the PR agency, like me being a special needs mom is also a part of something that I do and something that people follow me for and that inspires people. So for me to not talk about Bella or talk about my daughter, the way that I'm a single mom, all these things encompass me. So it works better for me to have a personal account. Like, and I honestly just don't have time to have a Jingle Dress account and then a reconciliation. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, this is what works. But if you have like Bob's Tire and Auto, then it's probably working best to have, a business account. It's whatever works for you, and what your needs are and what time you have on your social media. Um, this was another question. How do taxes work when starting your business? I will share that uh, my tax, and this is again specific to you, lady went against me actually filing as a business, and I file my taxes along with just as myself. And that again doesn't work for everybody. And I think again, when like Cayman stated that AICHO was going to offer classes, I think it's great to have tax professionals, people that you can talk to about what is in your best interest, because it really does come down to a lot of things like how much money are you making, do you have another job? There's so many things here that factor into you know taxes and making those kinds of big decisions for yourself when it comes to your business. uh Another question: what is your advice for people just starting out? And I use this, I love memes, I'm a meme sharer. um 10 years from now, make sure you can say that you chose your life and that you didn't settle for it. And I say this because I've always been an artist. I loved art, I love theater, I'm like theater, I'm nerd. Always, it's been a passion thing for me forever. And I think growing up I tried really hard to like fit in these molds. Oh, I need to go to college, I need to do this, I need to make money, I need to find a job that's gonna do everything. And the pandemic happened, and I always had, again, good friends who are like, I think you should really like jump on this. You're talented enough. You can do this. I think you would be great at this. Um, and I think that's when I really started to live. And truly, I feel like I finally found my space. I feel confident. I feel so many things. And I just think about that. Like, if I could have done it sooner, I would have. And I just feel like now I choose my life. I'm not just like, you know, sitting there at an office and just not getting looked over for, not, being enough or whatever it is. Sometimes our tribal communities can do that to us and get us in this spell of thinking that we're not good enough. And I think if people think long and hard, and you know what you're good at, and you know what you want, don't settle for a life that you did not choose and that you didn't fight for. So that's my advice, whatever that looks like for you. I am not judging that. But I think people know. And I think if you do some, internal work and map out some thoughts that you have about different things, I think you can figure that out. And, if it is starts out as a side hustle, fine. I realize not everybody can, not work. And that's why there's social media and side hustles and all these other things. So that's my answer there. Um, Can you explain the algorithm of social media platforms and how to get the most views? I do have answers for this. Um, so one thing that I notice, and this is just me, this is not, I don't use the social media tools. I don't have time for that, honestly. But one thing I will notice is that if you wait, and I just had a session of this with my cousin. We were out in California, and she was so excited for me to post her dress, and I was like, let's wait till Monday. And she's like, why? Oh my gosh. And I was trying to explain this in sense of like social media hits. And I said, well, tomorrow is the big Vikings game against Detroit. And I said, and right now it's Saturday night. I said, nobody's on social media, or most people aren't, you know? And I said, but we post Sunday night, the first thing people are going to see on Monday is going to be your post. And, same with like another day, like Tuesday or Wednesday. I tend to try to make my posts at like 11 p.m. And that's what I've noticed, that the most people interact with it, because then the next day it stays in the algorithm as the first thing that people see. So that's one little tip that I can give. I don't even know if hashtagging is, I've seen something about that going away on Instagram, but when I started doing that, I started noticing that I was getting more followers from different, just especially if it like, if you make a skirt and it's like Wicked was so huge, right? And you just tag hashtag Wicked and make something that's, in the cultural sphere of popularity in the moment, you're gonna get the chance of popping up in those views too, whether or not you know, and you can use those to your advantage. So that's my little tips that I can say about the algorithm of social media. And I will also say too that when you do comment back to people that are commenting on your post, it puts that back into the algorithm again. So, if you have like, this is like super trick right here. They're making my money's worth right now, but like let's say that 5 people commented on your post, right? And it's like, I don't know, 12 hours old. I would respond to 2 maybe in the morning. I'd respond to 2 more in the middle of the day, and then I'd respond to 2 more in the evening. And it breaks that up, because every time you comment back on your post, it goes back into somebody's uh algorithm, because it'll be like, oh, so and so commented, so and so responded to that comment. It like keeps it alive. So if you want to think about that, that's a really good tip there. uh this one surprised me. Somebody must follow me. Hey, what process did you use to create your youth-based initiatives, and what funding sources did you use for support? um I put this picture in here because this is like the most OG picture I have. My daughter's here in the pink on the bottom. But that was my first one of my first little adventures with dressmaking. And um, but I know what people are talking about, and I am trying to keep it on time. But Byron's actually in the room, and he and I I actually went to the Native Nation Rebuilders program, and I came back and we were tasked with this idea of like, how can you make a difference on your reservation with like a $0 project? And um, the process that I used to think about it was honestly like thinking about where I was at that time in my life, which I think I was around 25 years old or so. And I was like chasing the language and trying to spend time with elders and just, I was not confident. I wanted to be a better speaker. All these, like, so many things. I didn't have my college done. I didn't understand a whole lot about, you know, sovereignty, our treaty rights, all this stuff. And that was like the 4 posts that we created this program called Gainigan as a Jig. That's not the one that's running currently at Mille Lacs, I'll say that. But the 4 posts were post-secondary education, language acquisition, um, learning about treaty rights, and then I'm blanking on, and leadership skills. And we brought in just people that I'd met in my experience, tribal leaders. We brought in Native America's success speaker, James Anderson, to like give the kids a boost on public speaking. So many different things. We brought kids to all the colleges across Minnesota that were specific to Native language. And I will say we got to see the fruits of our labor. Probably a little under half of those kids that went through that initial cohort program all graduated from a 4-year university, and maybe I would say 6 out of those 10 are all Ojibwe language majors. So we've seen the results far after our program ended. And for what funding sources? One, we received a grant that we had to work through with the tribal government. And the second one, we had to kind of we presented to tribal government and were awarded $1 million, and to do it because we proved ourselves the first time. So that's like the really quick answer, but I want to be able to get through all these slides. But feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help anybody that wants to try to, build program and how to do that better. Uh, any tips for artists with limited time to create content? I have no time to create content, but you know what? One thing I would say is I think Instagram has a really good, like for reels. I do feel like reels do give you a kind of an advantage. And one thing, like I went on a trip and I just made it a point where I was like, okay, if I'm doing something cool or I see something cool, I'm just going to take like a 5-second clip of it. And then I started doing these videos for a while where I was like using the Instagram editor tool, lining it up with music and just posting these really like quick snippet things where people could see what I was doing, and they were really popular. And yeah, so I think, everybody gets the same 24 hours. I think if you think about it enough, there's a lot of tools. I'm sure there's apps. I don't use them. Um but I think good photos of your work, um spending the money on advertisements for a business, those are both, I would say, pretty two important things if you're limited on your time. Those are my two things I would say to spend it on, whether that be money or your time. So there's another question. Are there any brands that you'd like to collab with? And when came and asked me this, I was like, honestly, no. But I would love to meet Lin-Manuel Miranda and like write a play about the res with him and do something like that. Like, so that's my fun little thing I would say there. I don't really think about collabs with brands. It's just not a value that I have. I mean, it'd be cool, but it's not. It's honestly, as I wouldn't even know who to say or what to think or anything like that. Like, I'm not that inspired by other brands. I just kind of I try to not even watch a whole lot of other people because I like to stay in my own bubble of inspiration. But I would love to work with Lin-Manuel Miranda. Um, okay, so this one's a 2-slider. How do you manage your relationships and your business while being so busy? My little slide. I may look like I'm cool on social media, but in real life, I have like 2 friends work all the time and I sit in the house. This is kind of real. Unless I'm traveling, unless I'm doing stuff, I do spend a lot of time at home. I love my sewing machine. I love my the life that I'm afforded as an artist right now. But I am a single mother, and that does play a role in the way that I have to manage my time. And again, I stated at the beginning, I'm super high functioning ADHD, and I've had to really learn over the years how to like, okay, Tuesday is doing this, and like try to give myself a schedule or I would fail. So being very strategic with my time, learning to schedule myself, my calendar, all of that has helped. And I want to share this video because I think this, above all things, really speaks to the way that single mothers can be as business owners. And this is Shonda Rhimes. She's the writer of Bridgerton, Grey's Anatomy, many other amazing shows that I'm sure you've all watched. So I'm going to play this.
As a very successful woman, a single mother of three who constantly gets asked the question, how do you do it all? For once, I'm going to answer that question with 100% honesty here for you now. The answer is this: I don't. Whenever you see me somewhere succeeding in one area of my life, that almost certainly means I am failing in another area of my life. If I am killing it on a scandal script for work, I am probably missing bath and story time at home. If I'm at home sewing my kids' Halloween costumes, I'm probably blowing off a rewrite I was supposed to turn in. If I'm accepting a prestigious award, I'm missing my baby's first swim lesson. If I'm at my daughter's debut in her school musical, I am missing Sandra Oh's last scene ever being filmed at Grey's Anatomy. If I am succeeding at one, I am inevitably failing at the other. That is the trade-off. That is the Faustian bargain one makes with the devil that comes with being a powerful working woman who is also a powerful mother. I want my daughters to see me and know me as a woman who works. I want that example set for them. I like how proud they are when they come to my offices and know that they come to Shondaland. There is a land, and it is named after their mother. In their world, mothers run companies. In their world, mothers own Thursday nights. In their world, mothers work. And I am a better mother for it. That woman is a better person and a better mother because that woman is happy. That woman is fulfilled. That woman is whole.
Bam. That is so powerful. Um, yep. And I'm not even going to say anything else about that one.
As a very successful.
Ooh, okay. Um, what are your goals as an artist? You know, this one kind of got me too, but I think my goals as an artist have always been to kind of push the boundaries of like cultural tradition, to think about the way that we, you know, can intertwine like the happenings of today and fashions that we see in current culture and kind of add them in little ways to like what we're doing as traditional artists. I love that idea. And as I've grown as an artist, I think I've realized how much uh, artists really do shape our world in so many ways more than we even think about. I think about Anishinaabe uh, adornment a lot. And I'm like, people, when they look back, they see these beautiful photos or they look at pictures of these bandolier bags or just all of these other things. Like, who made that? Artists made that. Artists created the world that we remember. And I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit as artists. And so when I think about that, like, I just want to be like a good steward and of an artist of like our time to like share what we're doing today in a way that's Anishinaabe, in a way that's like worldly and it's meaningful because we're like timekeepers for the future. And I really truly believe that. So as an artist, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and being a good, artist that pushes the boundaries and captures the way we are as Anishinaabe today. Uh, where do you see yourself in your business in 5 years? This answered it so great. To be so deep in alignment with your purpose that your dreams start to chase you, that is the goal. And I don't know what that looks like. I really don't. I feel like I don't align in my specific business with a lot of things. Like, do I want jingle dresses in the Herd Museum and all these different places? I mean, maybe for like a little bit, but then I would rather see them out dancing in the arena being used in the way that they're supposed to. Um, I will say I'll put this in the air. My biggest dream um, at current is another reason why um, Lin-Manuel Miranda inspires me is that he has been the recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant Award. And that's just somebody who like is doing so many things and doing so much. And it's another like a blank uh nomination. Like it is so rare to get it. But that would be like a goal. And there's no way I could even do any one thing specific to like align myself to it. I just have to keep doing good things. And, you know, like that's what I want to do and that's what I want to be and who I want to be and my what I want my business, if that's what we're calling it, to do and be in 5 years and in 20 years, you know? I just want it to be authentic. I want to still be making beautiful things that make other people feel beautiful. And yeah, that's the best answer I could give to that one. And that's the end of my slideshow. So I'll come back on the vid here. Um, oh, and I think we wanted 10 minutes for questions, but I gave you sevens, but I'm happy to stay past and answer any questions that anyone might have. So I think Cayman's gonna be the controller here, and I'm happy to answer anybody.
It's been a quiet group chat. So far, we've just had people throw in where they're from, so seeing a lot of great locations. If you have any last questions, please throw it in the group chat. Adrienne, I just want to say, I don't know, just a flood of emotions, especially as, you know, another single parent artist. And then I don't know, I always learn a lot from you and I always appreciate the things you do for your community, your friends, your family, and like it's beautiful to see your work out there. And the way that you take care of, you know, everyone that you encounter. We do have a question. You
Okay,
talk of fellowships. What are those and what do they entail?
that's a good question. I didn't know that either. Hold on, I'm going off camera. I have to like seriously wipe my nose real quick. But I can still talk. So fellowships. I was early on after I did the um Native Nation Rebuilders, feel like is a fellowship. But what it is it's usually pointed towards something like Native Nation Rebuilders is pointed towards tribal government, governance, Native governance. I've done fellowships around art, collaboration, connection, how artists shape the world. So usually they're like themed and you can find them. I can help you too with this, but they're out there. Different organizations, philanthropic agencies put them on, and what their goals are, they bring like 20 to 50 people together in similar taste, I guess, and sometimes different, just to see, you know, how what the conversations end up like, to bring people together to like create collaboration, to create those connections like across the country. Sometimes they have a pointed end, like they'll be like, oh, okay, well, after this fellowship you're going to be challenged to create something for your community, or how can you collaborate with at least 5 people from this fellowship. So it really like is out there to open doors for you, to meet other people. I think for me what it's done has been, obviously the networking is major, but I think for the first time when I went to the Native Rebuilders program, I was like, oh my God, there's like other people that care. There's other people that care about the res and are good people and aren't just doing the awful stuff we hear about all the time and like want to change things. And like, and that's how I felt like every time it leveled up, I met more people that were just like incredible folks that are doing bigger things and making those connections. And yeah, it's good to have on your resume. I mean, even as an artist, your CV, whatever it's called nowadays. Just aged myself with that one, but every time I've done it, it's been amazing. And one of the best fellowships I've done took me to Salzburg, Austria. And I met with people from all over the world and had conversations about everything from art to like how appropriation isn't even understood at all in a worldly context. It's very US and Canada. But yeah, I mean, it just broadens your views. And I'm so grateful that it's a thing and that people feel like it's valuable. So that's what a fellowship is in a nutshell. Anyone else?
Our group chat is pretty quiet. Is there anything else that you found while you were talking about your presentation that you wanted to pass on?
No, honestly, I felt like I went hard on what I wanted to say, and I like I said, having the questions beforehand, I really appreciate that. So it kind of let me, you know, go all the way to the different areas. I'm sure I probably answered a lot of people's questions since we did the pre questions.
All right, we got one. Thank you for speaking about this tonight. It was very eye-opening for my sister and I's business, Two Sister Herbals, and how we can work on getting it up and running. It can be overwhelming, but it felt better to hear your experiences and thoughts on starting your own business. And then we got Ahau, Miigwech, great job, Kwe, met you. You're a rock star. Thank you so much for being here. You're so inspirational and down to earth. And then we have a question. What is a medium you want to try, and how would you go about finding an opportunity for that?
Okay, this one's actually funny, and I rolling with this. I'll roll with it. I don't know if that's Hannah or Ivy, but okay. Um, I I was cleaning out my photos, my Google photos recently, and when I was lucky enough to go to Fond du Lac Tribal Community College, I was worked with Karen. Help me with the last name. I'm blanking.
Karen Savage Blue?
Yes, yes. And I was so like I used to draw all the time. And as I've gotten into like art and some stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty good at that. Like compared to what I see out there and stuff, I was like, why did I not do that? So that's one thing that I've thought about, maybe revisiting in the recent times or just thinking about it in the future. I really it brings me joy. I like doing just even stills of like people or, if I look at them. I love watercolor. So that kind of thing I think is something that I would and how would I go about an opportunity? I don't know. Maybe I would just try to get involved in like a local show and see what happened. From there, I guess that'd be my first step, my personal first step.
I would love to see you have your own show. I think that would be great. So hopefully in the future we can see some Adrienne Benjamin watercolors out there.
Yeah, it exists already. It's just not public.
We got a lot of people saying miigwech, miigwech for your time and everything you've shared. I appreciate this so much. As a single mom myself, I often find it hard to balance and justification of doing more creative things for myself. And I think this person is from Hispanic, because it says T, I'm gonna butcher this, I'm so sorry. Tiomazakamati? Yep.
You
Uh,
go. I would not have attempted that.
yeah, I took a big risk there. But if we don't have any lasting questions, I do want to say if you are looking for more resources about how to start your business, again, January 27th, we will be having a free dinner presentation here at AICHO from 5 to 6:30. Dinner is provided. You do have to register using the link, which is at the top of the chat. And I just want to say a big miigwech to Adrienne for spending time with us and for putting together that beautiful presentation, and just for sharing all the knowledge that you have acquired over the years. I think it's really important that you know, you spend a lot of time sharing with people and helping people along their journeys. And I think once we set that example for young artists or young, not even having to be young, but people starting out their own businesses or ideas, to keep that kind of the momentum of who we are as people, and how we take care of our community is we always help each other out. And yeah, and so I just want to say one last thank you to Northland Foundation for funding these presentations. Means a lot to see that kind of partnership between organizations. And if you are interested in learning more about Kiva, that is in the chat. Again, it's an online crowdfunding platform that probably will help out a lot of businesses starting up. It's a pretty great program. So, Adrienne, do you have any last words you want to say?
No, I'm really honored again to share space with everyone and appreciate the comments. I see the chat. Um, and I'm also gonna just point out real quick that besides at least one that I can very easily see like that this is all women, and I think that that's something very special too, that, you know, show up to want to be able to do this. And I think it speaks to that video I shared, and you know, the hustle we have to have as women, period.
All right. I know not everyone is able to, but if you want to send some love to Adrienne, you can use it doing the hearts or you can say miigwech. And we just appreciate you all coming here to spend your time with us. I know it's Monday, it's cold out where we are from, and yeah, we look forward to keep growing businesses, entrepreneurs, and opportunities for us all. So miigwech and mi'u.
You, big
Right.
love 'em, and I'll appreciate you all for showing up.